Is it best to be a sole trader or a limited company in Amazon FBA in 2023? That's what we're going to cover in this video. Stay tuned. What's going on, guys? My name is Hayden and I think I did around about 80,000 in my UK and US store combined last month even. And in this video, I'm going to tell you the difference, the pros and the cons between the limited and the sole trader setup when you're selling on Amazon, so that you know what best decision suits you. Make sure you watch the whole video all the way through so you get a full understanding of what business is right for you. Just before we dive into this video, I want to thank my sponsor, Awesome, for sponsoring this video. They've been my bookkeeping and accounting company for ever since I started Amazon now. They actually set up limited companies and business bank accounts for only £12 for you. Click the link below, it takes about 6 minutes and they will set up the account for you. But if you need bookkeeping and accounting when you're going limited as well, there's £100 off by using the other link that I have below if you want to get £100 off the accounting and bookkeeping services for them. But yeah, as I say, probably the best bet to get the £12 to incorporate your company and get a business bank account if the limited setup is for you. So thanks, Awesome. Let's carry on with the video. But first of all, let's dive into the cons of being a sole trader. The first con, which is relating to Amazon specifically when it comes to being a sole trader, is that I have heard the occasional story, someone that I knew actually in the same sort of mastermind that I was in when I started as well. So, you know, it does happen, but it's not that common. Is Amazon not transferring your account to a limited company when you hit the 85,000 threshold. So when you're coming up to the threshold of VAT, obviously you need to be a limited company for that. In some cases, I've heard, okay, once again, someone that I knew personally, that Amazon actually took about 10 months to switch them to a limited company after they requested it from a sole trader. So as I say, it should be a simple thing, and for most people it is, but there is that risk that Amazon will sometimes take months to get that documentation in order to actually switch you to a limited company. And obviously if you're not a limited company, you can't go VAT registered, and yeah, it just messes things up and it's just going to slow you down a lot. So that was one of the first cons, major cons, which is why I personally started as a limited company. Another major con for actually having a sole trader is that you are liable for it. You've got unlimited liability. It's not a limited company where it's limited liability. It's unlimited liability, which means that you are going to be come for personally if there's loans against the business and you can't pay them, if there's issues with debt collectors, if you have issues with faulty products, for example, you're liable for that. And they can come after your personal assets. And that's always been something that I've wanted to keep completely separate. I think it's a really good thing to keep your company and you separate. You pay yourself a salary, you pay yourself dividends, you invest into your company, into courses and masterminds and softwares and stuff like that. And it's just, you have to think of it as completely separate. Any debt in that limited company is separate, as opposed to you if you were a sole trader. That debt is on you. Any debts that you can't pay back is on you, okay? You can't just close it down, okay? That's one of the amazing things about living in the UK with limited companies, is that it's limited liability. You can literally walk away from that company and just close it down, and all the liability is held up in that company. It's a beautiful thing in the UK that a lot of people don't appreciate as much. You can't do that in every single country. So yeah, that's a major con of being a sole trader. As a sole trader, generally you're going to be paying more tax. So if you're going near the 85,000 threshold in the year, which is the VAT threshold, which isn't a lot, by the way, especially not when you're selling on Amazon, it tends to be a lower margin game, higher volume, then yeah, you're going to be paying more tax. The tax does not work out in your favor as a sole trader as it would be as a limited company if you're starting to do, 100,000, 200,000, etc. So there's definitely tax benefits, but look into this yourself so you know exactly what I'm referring to here. So another Amazon specific massive con for being a sole trader is that you can't sell the company if it's a sole trader. It's against Amazon's terms of service if you want to sell your sole trader business, because it's not a real business. It has to be a limited company if you want to sell that to someone. So if your plan is to build it up and make an exit from it, then it needs to be limited. And the longer it's limited, the more proof of profits, the more proof of your books you have to show possible investors. That's why I think it's a good thing to do it from the start. So that's most of the cons I've just gone over. Now let's look at the pros of being a sole trader. So a major con of being a sole trader now is actually the setup. So there's no doubt about it, you know, being a sole trader or just being a simple partnership, if it was you and one other person, it's very, very easy to set that up. You know, there's next to no paperwork for that, okay? So it's definitely a pro to have that, the minimal setup and admin costs, you know. Another thing is the accounting fees. So sometimes when you're a sole trader, depends what sort of level that you're playing at here, the fees for the accountants can be a lot lower. Now, Awesome, who I use, who are sponsoring this video, who said I've got the £100 off link below, or they set the company up for £12 only, they actually offer mini packages. So it's only about £50 a month if you're starting out, which is really, really good, I think. However, a lot of accountants, the fees are going to be more. So if you set up a limited company, especially if you're doing over 100,000 or whatever, you're looking at hundreds of pounds generally for most accountants. But if you're a sole trader, tends to be less. But depends what sort of level you want to play it here. Do you know what I mean? If you're doing hundreds of thousands as a sole trader, you're generally going to be spending a lot on accountants anyway. But yeah, definitely check out Awesome's packages. They're mini packages for new sellers. They're good. Another pro, a small pro, another pro for being a sole trader is that your information isn't going to be public. You know, when you're a limited company, you have to publicate your information. It has to be published on the government website, okay, and also on your Amazon seller account, okay. We will be able to find your address, and they'll be able to, from your store, they'll be able to find your address, they'll be able to see the name of the company, etc., and then they can look into there, look at directors and stuff like that. Now, I wouldn't let that scare you, because what you can do is pay for a virtual address, which is very cheap. That's what I do. I pay for a virtual office address where my mail goes to, and also, so you know, for my limited companies, where my mail goes to, and also if anyone looks me up, they can only see that. And my personal director as well is also not where I personally live. So there is ways that you can cover it up, but if you're a sole trader, you don't have to worry about that because your information isn't public. Okay. So let's move on to a limited company now. Let's do the cons of a limited company. And at the end of this video, guys, stay tuned. I'm going to summarize both and give you my honest opinion. Okay. So let's look at the cons of a limited company. So as we mentioned before, there's a bit more paperwork when it comes to a limited company because it's more of an official setup. Not a massive issue though, to be honest. I've got an admin VA that does most of this. I've got Awesome as my accountants that manage all this for me, bookkeeping, etc. But yeah, there's definitely a bit more admin. As I say, other thing is that your information is going to be public, so you want to use a virtual office, like the London office, for example, is a good one. It's about £30 or £40 a year for the basic package, and that will cover up your address. But yeah, your information is going to be public, and make sure your personal appointment address is also not public. You might have to get a virtual address for that as well. So the pros of a limited company, okay? So number one, which we already talked about, you can sell the business, okay? Very, very important. And you have that backlog of proof to show that how long you've been in business, okay? So the sooner you start that, the better, okay? Number two, the credibility that you have when you're trying to open wholesalers and suppliers. A lot of people, when they're starting out, are trying to open wholesalers and suppliers with a Gmail email address, okay, which is not professional, okay? You need a professional email address. They've got these Gmail email addresses and they're a sole trader, okay? They haven't even got a limited company number to send. Ideally, you want a VAT registered number, you know, when you've hit the 85,000 to be taken seriously. It's like an entry level thing. But as a minimum, you need to be limited. So you get taken much more seriously for business partners, for wholesalers, for brands, or whatever you want to do. They just expect a limited company number. Another thing, if you want to add business partners, friends, families, secretaries to the business, then you need a limited company, okay? If you want a professional setup where you can add people to the business, okay, and you may not think that you want to do it at the moment, but when you do, when you start, hopefully, you know, keep working hard, start doing millions and millions, there's going to be structures within your business that change, and you're going to want to start adding potentially business partners, secretaries, etc. to the business. So obviously you can do that with a limited company. As I said earlier, with the cons for the sole trader, you're not going to have any issues with Amazon switching. When you set up as a limited company from the start, you're a professional entity from the start, and it should be plain sailing in terms of proof that you have to give to Amazon. A lot of the issues have come for the people that I know of when they've tried to switch, tried to do a massive change, which, by the way, is a massive change going from a sole trader to a limited company in Amazon. It's essentially them handing the account over to someone else rather than it being you as you. They're handing it to a company, which is essentially, by the way, just to be clear, nothing to do with you. You may be the director, but Amazon doesn't see it like that. They see it as a separate company switching on that Amazon account. And for me, that's not something that I wanted to risk. I always say limited company from the start, and I would recommend that. As I say, yeah, it's 12 quid. Do you know what I mean? The next thing is the limited liability, as we mentioned earlier. I want to go into more detail in this, guys. Any issues that you have with your company, this is just such an important, it's one of the main benefits of living in the UK, the limited company setup. I know someone that lives in a European country. I'm not going to name any names. I know someone that came into hardships a few years ago, over 10 years ago, and they're still paying debt off, and they've almost had some of their assets seized. Okay, they've had a lot of threats from the government, this is a European country, because of debt from a business that they couldn't pay. And that went into their personal name and has scarred them for the rest of their life. Okay, they can't pay that debt back. You don't get that when you set up a limited company. It's limited liability. It's like this wall in between you and the company. Okay, sole trader, limited company, wall. Limited company, you. Limited company, you. Limited company, you. You're nothing to do with your company. You're a director. Just as if you were to be hired by another company as a director, you would be added. And if you left, you'll be taken off. You've got to start thinking of yourself as nothing to do with the company in terms of what it actually is as an entity, because you're just someone essentially that works for it. Okay, and has shares in it. Okay, but it's nothing to do with you, and that's why it's nice to split it up. Okay, limited company v sole trader. Okay, the limited company is limited liability. It's nothing to do with you if stuff goes wrong. You can corner it off, block it off. Okay, right. Let's do a summary. Sole trader v limited company. This is my opinion, and also from what I know from this journey and how long I've been selling, which is way over 3.5 years now on Amazon specifically. I start with a limited company. I think it's the best route. I've just given you the pros that I've done, with the pros which I know of being a limited versus the sole trader. In my opinion, they outweigh it. There's risk there. There's risk on the Amazon account. Not only the Amazon account is there risk, but if you're a sole trader, with switching it over, which could really, really affect you. But there's also risk on the personal front there. There's risk that you're liable for things. Okay, taxes, accounting and stuff like that. It's just more proper. Wholesale accounts, brand accounts, whatever you want to open, it's more proper. Business partners, etc. It's more proper. You just get taken more seriously. So here's what I think. Okay, if you want to take this business seriously, if you want to earn a full-time income from this, if you want to pay yourself a salary, pay yourself a dividends, and have less risk, then you need to set up a limited company from the start. As I say, it costs about £12, okay, with that link below. You need to set it up from the start if you're going to do it. Otherwise, you may have issues later. You may have issues with being liable for stuff that you don't want to be liable for later. And you could be causing yourself more issues when you're trying to open wholesalers, when you're trying to open all this stuff. But if you're not taking Amazon seriously, if you're just messing around, we want to do 10 grand a year, 20 grand a year in sales, and you're not too bothered and you want less admin, then maybe the sole trader's route is right for you. If you want to take this seriously, if you want to get out your job, if you want to hit this hard, limited company. I hope you enjoyed the video. Make sure you stay tuned to the next one. Check out the offers below, and I'll see you in the next video.